Hello again, this is Polly Walker. I am going to talk very briefly about the Village Health Worker Training Programme, the training of facilitators, to just walk you through the skills and competencies that you'll be acquiring this week during this 8-day workshop and how we're going to assess and certify you to become Village Health Worker trainers in healthy families and teaching. There are 3 phases for this training programme. Phase 1 you've already started, so 1 or 2 weeks before the event you should have been provided with facilitators manuals, and there's a homework assessment which supports the learning process. That homework assignment, for some of you might not have received it. Don't worry, it will only be required to be submitted on day 4 of the ToF event. The second phase is the classroom learning. So there are 8 days of classroom learning that are happening now. However, after that we plan for 2 days to be in the field, and there are instructions in your manuals for how to conduct the field practicum, where you can get out to the community and try out some of the tools and materials. During this event you will be assessed on a number of things. So there will be a post-training knowledge assessment, but also there is a competency assessment. So we will ask you to demonstrate the household visits and the counselling technique, just so we can be absolutely sure that you have understood how to do negotiation and dialogue counselling and how to demonstrate it well for the village health workers you're going to go on to teach. After this you're going to create an action plan as well. So during phase 3, this is learning by doing. So we're not assuming that we'll train you and you will automatically be able to do it. So there'll be a sort of 3 to 6 month phase where you'll be conducting training with village health workers, hopefully with the support of your master trainers and mentors. You're also going to do assessment of the supervisors. And during that phase we will be assessing and certifying you as well. And then at 3 or 6 months we will do an action plan review to make sure that all of the learning is being put into action. So you will be assessed, and we found that this is it's really important for ensuring the quality of our trainings. It also is a great opportunity for you to test your own skills and measure your own level of confidence and competence with the content that we are going to be teaching you. So there are 4 components to that. The first component is the completion of the homework. This is this is an open book exercise. That is to say that you can use the reference materials as much as you like to find the answers, and don't be fooled into thinking that just because you may know the answer you don't need to use the materials. That's not the case. In this homework we're not assessing just your knowledge level of the health and nutrition issues. We're also looking at your ability to find the content in the book. So make sure that you draw the answers from the materials and not just from the top of your head. Secondly is the skills assessment. You will each be given a different household visit, and you will be practicing that household visit and conducting the visit in groups. Okay, so that constitutes 25%. However, I will say you must pass that assessment in order to be certified. The third one that will be done this week is the post-test. So after the training is completed, you will also be given an open book test on the skills-based component of TTC. So that also constitutes 25%. So those are the 3 things that will be done in the classroom, but then there's an additional field practicum which must be done later. So we're looking for an 80% pass mark. 70-80% will be considered competent, but less than 70% I'm afraid we would withhold certification until such a point that you can complete those assessments with full competency. So let's look at the different competencies in the framework. So competency 1 is about the programme implementation methodology. So there we're talking about community entry, so use of the Healthy Families tools to register all the households, to conduct community mobilisation, and also to have a good understanding of the TTC and integrated household visit timing and structure. So you should be able to explain and demonstrate that you have a sound knowledge of the implementation plan. And then in terms of your learning transfer objectives that we'll assess during the action plan review, we can see that you have correctly started to implement the programme. Competency 2 is all about the behaviour change, communication and counselling skills. So these are the soft skills component that we're really going to focus on a lot during the first 3 days of this training. That includes use of effective communication skills, correct technique of negotiation and dialogue, use of psychological first aid principles to respond to distress, and also the appropriate use of all of the job aids, household handbooks and stories. As we've included the UNICEF model Care for Child Development here, we'll also be looking at a correct demonstration for Care for Child Development. So you should be able to model all of those skills in a classroom setting and also to assess village health workers for their acquisition of those skills too. Competency 3 is all about technical knowledge. Now, you've all been selected because you have a pretty solid background in the majority of these topics already. And so that's why we've issued the homework to assess your level of knowledge. And we would only express concern if there were real issues emerging from that homework. So most of you have already got a solid background in some of these topics, such as healthy pregnancy, birth planning, newborn care. Topics such as child health, nutrition and environmental health have already been there in your village health worker curriculums already. So we won't focus on those much during this training. However, there are some topics that you might be less knowledgeable about. So those are ones we're going to emphasise in the technical content of much more. So that might include a 3-hour session just on maternal mental health and psychosocial problems. Also early child development for those of you who haven't had any previous training. And adolescent health is another area that we've tried to prioritise within the week. Competency 4 is all about supervision and monitoring. So the behaviours we want to see here are the completion of registers, the ability to tally and interpret the registers. So we'll be using a scorecard system for some basic data analysis and interpretation, how to give feedback. We want you to understand how to conduct a supportive supervision activity on an individual basis, and also to be able to teach and demonstrate those supportive supervision skills that are really critical. So some of that will be included in the post-test, but in terms of learning transfer, it's during the co-facilitation of the village health worker training, let me say. There are a number of resources included in the facilitator's package of materials, and these are the things that you need to think about for when you're conducting your village health worker training. So you have 2 facilitators manuals, one for healthy families and one for TTC. You also have a supervision training manual. For your village health workers, particularly those that are literate, you will need both the participants' manuals for healthy families and TTC and the corresponding job aid for healthy families and TTC. These are quite different contents and they have different purposes. The participants' manual is for the use during the training itself, so there's lots of reading, resources, ideas, and also space for notes and exercises in the classroom. The job aids are intended to be a prompt that they might take those to the household. So they include things like clinical protocols and reference materials that they will need on a routine basis. The household handbook is the backbone of timed and targeted counselling. The family health card is there for Healthy Families module as well. So we need at least one per participant and trainer during the training activities. However, village health workers will need one household handbook for every pregnant mum or child under 2 and one family health card for every family working in their catchment area. Storybooks. There are a total of 4 sets of storybooks. So there's for TTC, you've got 3 sets running from healthy pregnancy, newborn care and child health, and then you have a separate set which goes from children from the age of 2 up to 19 years of age. There's a number of training materials which you'll find in your pen drive or on the Dropbox. So these are photo training cards. You will need to print these and, if possible, laminate them. If not possible, it's okay to just print them in colour. These are for use during the training for different exercises and activities where you need to, for example, recognise signs of danger signs or look at good breastfeeding practice. There's a large number of multimedia videos as well, so you need to make sure that you have downloaded all of those and that you know which ones are for use in which content. For the registers and supervision tools, you should have 1 packet per participant. So depending on whether you're training village health workers or their supervisors, you need to check which tools you need. And there's 1 manual, facilitated manual, for supportive supervision. You've got the original versions and the PDFs here. So you have the 2 facilitators manuals, a copy of the household handbook and health card, the monitoring and supervision materials and manuals, the participants' manuals and job aids, registers and storybooks. The one in the middle is the PDF, so this is just for the content that you need to print. Those are the versions that you would send to the printers. Then for the training DVD, you've got a number of different tools. That includes your assessment materials, your homeworks, etc., and also your skills assessment tools. You also have all of your multimedia training videos included in that section, and your PowerPoints if you need them. If you can't see that, you would be able to see this zip folder. So if you click on that zip folder, then all of the contents will be downloaded. What's the methodology used? Okay, it's a large facilitators manual. We're honest about that. And the reason it's large is because there's a lot of interactive and participatory approaches that are used for training the village health workers. We've tried to include a mix of different activities so that all learning styles are catered to. And all of the learning sessions will start by surfacing and tapping into the village health workers' existing knowledge and building from this as the foundation to present new information. So if you look at the facilitators manual, for example, in comparison to the job aid, you'll see that although the facilitators manual is large, the job aid, which is the essential content, is actually quite brief. Once you understand the structure of each session, then it becomes very, very easy to follow because they all basically have the same format. So you start by presenting the objectives and then doing a brainstorm in plenary with a blackboard or flip chart to determine what the village health workers already know on the topic. You do that before you present any new information. Once you've done the short lecture on the new content, you reinforce the information using various different activities. And these will break up the monotony of the lecture as well. For most of the sessions where there are technical recommendations, we will do a barriers analysis. So barriers analysis should start to come naturally to village health workers. So we're going to instill that during the training by analysing barriers in the classroom and proposing different solutions. Then there'll be an opportunity to practice with the visuals or practice, for example, a household counselling visit. In the special care cases, we also include these little case studies where you can go off into groups and come up with a care plan for each individual case. And then you wrap up by summarising the main points.